The Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing marked the beginning of the end for the war. It all started when Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard founded the Manhattan Project, which was leading to the discovery of the first atomic bomb ever created by humans and would end the war. The president was the head of the operation, and he gave permission to the scientists to create the bomb, and he even gave them a certificate to be the head of the Army Service Forces and Corps of Engineers. They were going to help end this war. Even though Germany surrendered on May 8th, Japan was still posing a threat. The Allies were preparing for an invasion to go into Japan and end the war, but then the Manhattan Project said they have finished their nuclear bomb and it was ready for dropping. So Americans made plans that a pilot would go over Hiroshima and maybe Nagasaki and drop two bombs, and this would end the war. The two pilots that were going to drop the bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki were Paul Tibbett and Charles Sweeney. Nagasaki was the second option to drop the bomb since it was the second most industrialized city in all of Japan, but Hiroshima was for sure number one. Even though this would kill many civilians, Americans knew the consequences and still went over with the plan. Over here, they both drove the same plane, which was the Enola Gay. Enola Gay was the one that carried Little Boy in Hiroshima and Fat Man in Nagasaki. These bombs had devastating effects. Little Boy was codenamed for the atomic bomb dropped in Hiroshima on August 6, 1945 by Colonel Paul Tibbets in the Enola Gay. It was the first atomic bomb to be used as a weapon. The second, the Fat Man, was dropped 3 days later in Nagasaki. The weapon was developed by the Manhattan Project during World War II. It derived its explosive power from the nuclear fission of uranium-235. The Hiroshima bombing was the second artificial nuclear explosion in history after the Trinity test. After the first uranium-based detonation, approximately 600 to 860 milligrams of matter in the bomb was converted into energy of heat and radiation. It exploded with an energy of 16 kilotons of TNT. It has been estimated by neutral sources that 90,160,000 people died as a result of its use by the end of December 1945. Fat Man was the codename of the atomic bomb that was detonated over Nagasaki, Japan, by the United States on August 9, 1945, 3 days after the bombing of Little Boy in Hiroshima. It was the second of the two nuclear weapons to be used in warfare to date, and its detonation caused the third man-made nuclear explosion. The name also refers more generically to the early nuclear weapon designs of United States weapons based on the Fat Man model. It was an implosion-type weapon with a plutonium core similar to the Gadget. The experimental device detonated less than a month earlier on July 16th at Alamogordo Airfield, New Mexico. Fat Man was possibly named after Winston Churchill, though Robert Serber said in his memoirs that as the Fat Man bomb was round and fat, he named it after Sidney Greenstreet's character of Caspar Gutman in The Maltese Falcon. The bomb was 128 inches long, which is 3,300 millimeters, and 60 inches in diameter, which is 1,500 millimeters. It weighed 10,200 pounds, which is 4,600 kilograms, which is twice the weight as Little Boy. This bomb also had 15% more plutonium than Little Boy. At first it was thought that the two pieces of subcritical plutonium in Fat Man could simply be shot into each other to create an explosion, like the Thin Man bomb, which was worked during the Manhattan Project. In April 1944, Emilio Sergei discovered that the plutonium they were using, which is Pu-240, about only 0.9% pure, was not as pure as the one they were using in Old Lawrence Radiation Lab. On August 6, 1945, the Americans were ready to drop Little Boy on Hiroshima. It all started in the morning at 5 a.m. when Enola Gay was getting ready to take off from a base in Asia. Enola Gay was holding a little boy, and they didn't intend on dropping it directly on the city because this could kill everyone there. So they decided just to give them a warning and drop it 150 meters above the city. As Enola Gay took off, the president came to meet him and shook his hand. Within the first 2 or 4 months of the bombing after it was dropped, the acute effects killed 90,000 to 166,000 people in Hiroshima and 60,000 to 80,000 in Nagasaki after Fat Man was dropped on the 9th of August, with roughly half the deaths in each city occurring on the first day. The Hiroshima Prefecture Health Department estimated that of the people who died on the day of the explosion, 60% died from flash or flame burns, 30% died from falling debris, and 10% from other causes. During the following months from burns, and 50 to 60% from other injuries compounded by illness. In both cities, most of the dead were civilians, although Hiroshima had a sizable garrison. Even though the bomb was dropped about 30-40 years ago, the effects are still lingering. The radiation is still affecting people today and giving little children diseases like leukemia and other adults more severe types of cancer. They are getting many tumors and it cannot be stopped, and people are still dying to this day. After the bombing in Nagasaki, this marked the end of the war in the Pacific coast between the Empire of Japan and the Allied forces. After this, Americans knew that it was the right decision to drop the bomb, even if Japan is still suffering to this day. Even if it was a good thing that they ended the war, Albert Einstein still has regrets about making the nuclear bomb. If enemy countries acquire this new power, a lot of people can die. This new type of warfare is called nuclear warfare and can not be controlled at all if countries acquire its power. Nuclear warfare has the effect to kill every single person in every single country. So Albert Einstein says he made the wrong decision. But if he did not make that bomb, Japan would have never surrendered and the war would still continue. To this day, Japanese civilians are still getting sick from radiation sickness. And this was just a total massacre on Americans' behalf, killing innocent civilians. Thank you for watching our documentary, and I hope you enjoyed and you are now more educated on the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing of 1945, which marked the end of the war.